In this episode of Everyday Movie Recap, we will discuss the rom-com film Anyone But You 2023. Sydney, our main character, walks into a coffee shop. She asks the coffee shop employee whether she is allowed to use the restroom. But the barista tells her that the restroom is reserved exclusively for customers. Glenn, our other main character, pretends to be Sydney's husband and buys her something to help her so she can use the bathroom. Sydney, who is captivated by him, walks into the bathroom, where she accidentally gets her trousers wet thanks to the water at the sink. As a result, she has to spend some time drying herself before leaving the bathroom building. Glenn calls out to her before she leaves because she has a toilet seat cover stuck to her shoe. However, she believes that he is about to ask her out, so he does this in order to save face. Glenn and Sydney hit it off over the day before sharing a grilled cheese and sleeping at his place. In the morning, Sydney makes an attempt to sneak out of the house in a stealthy manner, but Glenn notices her and becomes disappointed. Glenn's buddy Pete arrives shortly after and sees that the kitchen is a mess, indicating that Glenn cooked, which he never does with a frequent hookup. While this is going on, Sydney is on the phone with her friend, tells her that she might truly like Glenn. She even told her friend that she went out without even saying goodbye, so her friend advised her to return. However, as she is returning, she overhears Glenn telling Pete that she is a mess and that he couldn't get rid of her quickly enough, which hurt Sydney. After a period of 6 months had passed, Glenn and Pete finally get together with Pete's sister Claudia and her lover, Hallie. Sydney is Hallie's younger sister, and almost immediately, the situation becomes awkward when both sets of friends learn about the bad experience they had with each other. From that point on, Glenn and Sydney continue to argue and despise one another. A little over a year later, Claudia and Hallie have announced their engagement and have committed to being married in Sydney. As a result, Glenn and Sydney will need to meet up with one another once more. Following the arrival of the group, they are introduced to Leo and Eni, the parents of Sydney and Hallie, as well as Pete and Claudia's mother, Carol, and their stepfather, Roger. While Leo and Eni were unaware that Sydney had dropped out of law school, they anticipated that she would first be married and then complete her legal studies. They were also in mourning over the fact that Sydney and her ex-fiancé, Jonathan, had broken up. And as a result, they invited him to the wedding in an effort to get them back together. While Glenn and Sydney are at Sydney with Claudia and Hallie, Glenn comes face to face with his former girlfriend, Margaret. Claudia sees that Glenn still likes Margaret, but unfortunately, she already has a boyfriend. When night falls, the group gets together for a dinner party. At first, everything seems to be going smoothly until Glenn and Sydney start having arguments, which ultimately results in them igniting a firework by accident, which strikes a flower display and causes a fire that spreads to Hallie's hair by accident. The squad then forms a plot to convince Glenn and Sydney to hook up so that they can get it out of their systems and allow the wedding to go without a hitch. They worry that their childish fight will ruin the wedding, so they all work together to make this happen. The two individuals, Glenn and Sydney, swiftly become aware of the plotting and swim out to a boat that they were requested to pull into. Once they reach the boat, they discuss their plan. Sydney recommends that she and Glenn pretend that they are falling in love with each other in the hopes of getting her parents to stop judging her relationship with Jonathan. This would not only discourage Jonathan from chasing her, but it would also encourage Margaret to take notice of Glenn once more. As a result, he is willing to comply with the scheme. As soon as Glenn and Sydney go on a trek together with their friends, they begin to behave in a way that suggests they are interested in each other. They make an effort to caress one another, but nobody notices since they are caught in the presence of a koala. The next thing they know, they discover a spider in Glenn's shorts, which causes them to go into a panic and forces Glenn to remove all of his clothes in case there are further spiders on him. Because they were panicking, they threw Glenn's clothes in a faraway land. Later on, Glenn forms a relationship with Leo and Eni. And he teaches Leo how to swim by demonstrating the technique that his mother had taught him. Sydney expresses her gratitude to Glenn for being true to her father. Afterward, the whole squad embarks on a nighttime boat cruise together. Glenn and Sydney perform the "I'm Flying" sequence from Titanic with the intention of regaining everyone's attention by performing it on the bow of the ship. They get Margaret to notice, but Sydney falls into the water, and Glenn dives immediately to save her. They are able to reach a dinghy before the group has the opportunity to see them and ask for assistance. Both Glenn and Sydney have a heart-to-heart conversation while they are waiting, during which Glenn expresses his regret for what she overheard him saying negative stuff about her. Glenn is experiencing feelings of anxiety while they are being airlifted, and Sydney performs the song, Unwritten, by Natasha Bedingfield to him since she overheard him listening to it on the aircraft journey over. Glenn refers to this song as his Serenity song, because it helps him relax when he is in the air. Upon their arrival back at the hotel, Glenn makes a grilled cheese sandwich for Sydney, which brings back memories of the first time they went out together. After that, they begin to kiss and eventually end up sleeping together. However, Glenn leaves in the morning, leaving her feeling heartbroken. Sydney's parents learn that she did not complete her legal education. Sydney was angry with Glenn because her parents found out her secret. The only one who knows his secret is Glenn. Because of what happened, Sydney eventually admits that they had been lying about their relationship. They do this because they are aware of their scheme. So they just go with their plan and pretend that they like each other. The dog knocks over the wedding cake, which makes Hallie and Claudie so disappointed in Glenn and Sydney for ruining their upcoming wedding. Glenn overhears Claudia and Hallie bickering on the day of the wedding, which gives the impression that they could decide to call off the wedding in light of all that has been going on. It is for Claudia and Hallie's sake that he goes to Sydney's room and puts up the suggestion to stop their fight and go and be on their best behavior. Both Glenn and Sydney express their regrets to them, and the couple ultimately decides to be married. Given that Margaret found out about the fake relationship between the two, she goes to Glenn and tells him that she still likes him. Because Sydney witnesses Margaret kissing Glenn, she departs the party in a state of heartbreak. Glenn has come to the realization that he no longer has the same feelings for Margaret, and he also finds out via Claudia and Hallie that Sydney has gone elsewhere. Out of nowhere, Glenn jumps out of the clip, resulting in the family calling for a rescue, and then the helicopter arrives and saves his stupid ass. After that, Glenn makes a request for a helicopter flight because he is aware of where she will go. Because he remembered that Sydney told him that she wanted to go there after she became stuck in the ocean, Glenn goes and finds her outside of the Sydney Opera House. Glenn tells Sydney that Margaret kissed him and that he is sure now that he doesn't love her anymore and that he is in love with her. Sydney accepts his confession and the two of them kiss. The two return to the reception and have a dance, during which the DJ begins to play Unwritten and everyone sings in an attempt to tease Glenn. Anyone But You teaches lessons about love, self-acceptance, and communication. It shows that love can challenge expectations and emphasizes staying true to oneself. The film highlights the importance of open communication and acknowledges the complexities of relationships. Overall, it encourages viewers to embrace love, be authentic, and nurture meaningful connections.
Thank you for watching.
I hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching. For more videos like these, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.